Hey, David Brewster here with another 3 for All, and this is 3 Christopher Amott Licks from 2008. And Christopher Amott is the younger brother of Michael Amott, kind of the head or leader of the band Arch Enemy. And, Jeff Loomis is the lead guitarist in Arch Enemy, and Christopher was the, lead guitarist for many years. Michael and Chris both play lead. But Christopher definitely was kind of this shining star in my opinion. And I love Jeff Loomis, I really do. And I talked about him in the 3 for All I did earlier this month. But Christopher is this kind of, I feel, overlooked or kind of forgotten, member of Arch Enemy. And he has great ideas, really good tone, good phrasing, good licks. And I really like his music too. He's released some solo albums. And he also plays with a band now called Armageddon. And it's different than Arch Enemy, but it's really good. I'm a big fan of the 2001 album Wages of Sin from Arch Enemy, and I have several of their albums, and I like their other releases too. But for me, that is the one. It was the first album that featured tuning down 2 whole steps, like down to C basically, which is where we're at for this lesson. And it was also the first appearance of Angela Gossow, their former, lead vocalist, and she's amazing, and when I first heard that album, I was so confused. I thought there's no way that's a woman, but it is, and, she sang her butt off. The licks from this lesson actually come from a live, concert from 2008, and it was like Tyrants of the Rising Sun, I think it was called. I think it might be out of print now, or it might just be a Japanese import. I'm not really sure the status, on that DVD release. But that was a really good album, and it featured, Chris's solo, also had Michael's solo too. All right, so the first lick is basically what opened the video, that kind of bouncy, delayed, picking sequence. And the first time I ever heard this kind of slapback delay effect, and it's not like the traditional, like surf or rockabilly kind of slapback. And it's not like what you'd hear, let's say maybe in like Flying High Again or something with Randy Rhoads. That is like a slapback echo or a slapback, delay effect. But this is more kind of in line with Nuno Betancourt's, like Flight of the Wounded Bumblebee. Now right there I kind of ended on that C note. I just kind of wrapped up that guitar part because he continues and he goes much higher, and I didn't really want to transcribe or show the entire delayed, area of the solo. I just wanted to kind of, sample it so you can kind of see what's going on. And then if you really like it, you can dive, deeper into it because there is a lot more. He starts going into higher positions and starts moving around. And then eventually he turns off the delay, and then it kind of turns into a regular, like live guitar solo. But the main thing there is you want to set your delay. I'm just going to focus on the first note here, that F sharp on the A string. You want your delay, like I was saying a minute ago, you want it to kind of pop or appear right after you play the note. Something like that. Now right there you can see I played a little bit slower and I wasn't hitting the delay in the right spot. I was basically playing another note right when the repeat happened, so that kind of covered up, the sound of the note being repeated with the delay. So you really want that kind of in-between sound. So if you want to think of it rhythmically, like actually counting a rhythm, think of quarter notes, but then the delays are going to basically make eighth notes happen. Dun, 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 that kind of thing. In the sequence itself, it comes right out of C sharp minor pentatonic. So the first pattern, he's going to go right up the scale, starting there on the 9th fret on the A string. And another secret with this kind of delay effect is you want to mute the note that you pick right after you play it, because you want to silence that note so you can hear the repeat. So this is going to feel weird, and you're going to play a lot differently than you normally would if you just played through a scale, right? You're going to, you know, kind of choke the notes. You're going to play staccato, technically. Something like that. So we're going to go right up the scale, and he also included the F sharp there on the 14th fret on the high E string. So just go straight up, you know, C sharp minor pentatonic starting on the A string like this. And then right there, he basically, you know, kind of descended the scale, but he was ascending with notes. Right? Then you're going to go back up again. And right there, you're just going to basically stop on, you know, the 12th fret there on the high E, and then come back down, and you're once again ascending with the notes. And then right there, he's going to introduce that D sharp. The next lick kind of reminds me a little bit of like Michael Schenker or Randy Rhoads, kind of mixed up a little bit. It has these little flutter, you know, hammer-on pull-offs in it too. So it looks and sounds like this. And right there you can see we're kind of playing out of that C sharp minor pentatonic box still. But it starts with the bend, and then he kind of walks up and he keeps grabbing that D sharp, which would technically be the ninth, you know, if we're thinking of C sharp minor. So he keeps adding that ninth, but it's still kind of out of the box pretty much. And then there's that hammer-on pull-off, kind of the flutter I was talking about. And the way he comes down, like the note selection, is interesting. I just like that lick. It's musical, it's melodic, and it's simple, but it's really cool. All right, the next lick's pretty cool. It starts off with this kind of sweeped arpeggio, and then it has this little melodic kind of fingering movement that kind of moves around. It reminds me of John Petrucci, but it also reminds me of J.P. Lee a little bit too. But it looks and sounds like this. Something like that. We're going to start with that little sweep kind of out of E major. And then he basically does a hammer-on pull-off there between E, G sharp, back to E. So after he does the hammer-on pull-off, he slides down to D sharp, and then he kind of pulls off E to D sharp, and then ends on C sharp right there. And then right there, he turns it into kind of a J.P. Lee type of lick. All right, one more time, a little bit slower. Really cool lick. Here's a bonus lick from this solo, and this kind of reminds me of John Petrucci around like the liquid tension experiment era of his career. And it's this little pull-off kind of sequence, like melodic sequence. And he kind of digs in, he does some palm muting, some slight pinches, but it looks like this. A little bit slower, we're basically doing this. Like as far as the beginning right there. And then he starts doing almost like a Randy Rhoads kind of sequence there. You can also hear Jimmy Page playing that, you know, a long time ago with Led Zeppelin. So right there, he's really just descending on the the B and the G string there. That E, D sharp, C sharp to B kind of pattern. And that's where he digs in, he kind of palm mutes. He also kind of does some slight pinches on those notes. And then he doubles that E to D sharp on the B string. And then he starts coming down. It's technically like a C sharp minor pentatonic, kind of mutation. And then he starts grabbing the flat 5 right there. Really cool lick. That's going to wrap this look at 3 licks from Christopher Amott, and I'm actually a big fan of Arch Enemy, and I like Christopher's playing. And earlier in the video I talked about Michael and Jeff Loomis. I love Michael, and I think Jeff Loomis is a guitar genius. But Christopher, I've noticed, doesn't really get attention. I don't really notice a lot of people talking about him unless they're a big Arch Enemy fan and they remember, when he was in the band. All right, leave some feedback and some comments, and please subscribe to Late Night Lessons, and I'll be back before you know it with more content and material. Thank you.